So this is the Gemara Daf 24 of Avodah Zarah. So we ended where we said if you would say that indeed this is so, this cannot be correct. But doesn't Rabbi Yehuda say that Shmuel says the sages asked Rabbi Eliezer, to what extent must one exert himself to fulfill the mitzvah of honoring one's father and mother? Rabbi Eliezer said to them, go and see what a certain Gentile did for his father in Ashkelon, and his name is Dama ben Netina. Once the sages sought to purchase precious stones from him for the ephod of the high priest, and now we're in Daf 24, for 600,000 gold dinars profit. And Rav Kahana teaches that it was 800,000 dinars profit. But the keys to the chest holding the jewels were placed under the father's head, and he would not disturb him. So they came to purchase them. His father was sleeping on the chest. He didn't want to disturb his father. It is evident from the story that the stones of the ephod may be purchased from Gentiles. So if so, Rabbi Eliezer's reasoning cannot be based on Numbers 19:2, as an identical phrase appears in Exodus 25:2, and yet contributions to the tabernacle may be accepted from Gentiles. The Gemara answers that the phrase onyx stones, Exodus 25 verse 7, concluded discussion of that matter. In other words, almost all the items listed in Exodus chapter 25 of the contributions to the tabernacle are joined by the conjunction and. Before the verse mentions the stones for the ephod, it states onyx stones, without the conjunction and. This omission serves to disconnect these stones from the earlier phrase, that they take, quote, that they take, Exodus 25 verse 2, which means that the disqualification of items purchased from Gentiles for use in the temple derived from this phrase does not apply to the items listed after that point, including the stones of the ephod. The Gemara asks, but isn't it subsequently written, quote, and stones to be set, by which the verse goes back and combines the list so that the earlier verse applies once more. Accordingly, it should be prohibited to purchase any of the items listed in the verse from Gentiles. So the Gemara adds, and furthermore, the latter clause teaches, in a subsequent year, a red heifer was born in Dama's herd, and the sages of Israel approached him, seeking to purchase the heifer. So Dama said to them, I know concerning you, that if I were to ask from you all the money in the world, you would give it to me. Now I am requesting from you only that amount of money which I lost by refraining from waking my father. This latter clause explicitly states that the sages intended to purchase a red heifer from a Gentile, which contradicts the ruling of Rabbi Eliezer. So the story here is that this Dama ben Netina, so they went to purchase the jewels for the breastplate of the high priest, which these are of those particular stones. There was 12 specific stones for that breastplate, and then onyx stones up here. They were the most, basically what they did was they went out and they found the most expensive, the highest quality stones of those type that would go in those positions anywhere in the world. So this Gentile had these stones, but he refrained from selling them to the rabbis when they came because his father was sleeping on the chest that these were contained in, so he couldn't sell them to him. And so that might have, because they have to continue on and they have to perform a mitzvah. I'm not exactly sure of the story, but they might have actually purchased them from somebody else. They might have got a different seller to sell stones, and therefore he didn't get the sale of what is that, 600,000 dinars, which it's a lot of money. So now later in time, they came back to him because a red heifer was born to his flock, and therefore those are 100% unique in the world. So the rabbis, they are willing to give him whatever price that he puts on the red heifer. I'm sorry, not on them, but on the red heifer, as long as it qualifies, and they inspect it obviously. But he could have put whatever price he wanted on it, and they would have gave it to him. But he says, I only request that I get the amount of money that I lost from the transaction whenever I didn't sell the onyx stones to you. So that shows the respect he has for his father, because he didn't wake his father up, didn't disturb his father's sleep. So disturbing someone from sleep is actually considered theft, because you're stealing that sleep that they need, and it's time that they can't get back. So it's almost like theft. And there's also other ideas connected to this, like whenever somebody is sleeping, they are not exactly 100% in this world, and you're depriving them of that spiritual maybe not necessarily this is thought of the Gentiles, but generally sleep in general, like that it's a spiritual, like for instance, like if someone had a dream, if they were in the process of having a dream, let's say King Nebuchadnezzar, or what is it, Nebuchadnezzar, he has a dream, or Pharaoh, he has a dream, and somebody woke him up from one of those important dreams that he had. Like you just stole that message that Hashem was trying to pass on to him, right? But anyway, that's just a little anyway, the Gemara answers, there it was through the agency of Jewish merchants, and they purchased the heifer. In other words, Jewish merchants purchased the heifer from Dama ben Netina, after which the sages acquired the animal from the merchants to be used as a red heifer of purification. In this manner, the animal was purchased for the purchase of an offering from Jews. According to Sheila, Rabbi Eliezer's reason for not allowing a red heifer to be purchased from Gentiles is based on a derivation from a verse rather than a concern that a person may have engaged in bestiality with it. The Gemara therefore asks, and is Rabbi Eliezer not concerned about the possibility that a person has engaged in bestiality with an animal? And I just do want to point out, this is the Gemara actually highlighting an incident where we are learning how to respect father and mother from a Gentile. This is an example of a Gentile. That we are learning the case of this high level of honoring your father and mother from a Gentile. So it's not that, there's any exclusivity on an us and them sort of idea. Okay. According to Sheila, Rabbi Eliezer's reason for not allowing a red heifer to be purchased from Gentiles is based on a derivation from a verse rather than a concern that a person may have engaged in bestiality with it. The Gemara therefore asks, and is Rabbi Eliezer not concerned about the possibility that a person has engaged in bestiality with the animal? The Gemara elaborates, but isn't it taught in a Braita that the rabbis who hold that the heifer may be purchased from a Gentile said to Rabbi Eliezer, there was an incident in which Jews purchased the red heifer from a Gentile, and Dama was his name, and some say Remetz was his name. In response to this claim, Rabbi Eliezer said to them, can one bring a proof from there? Certainly not, as Jews were safeguarding it from the time that it was born, to ensure that a person did not engage in bestiality with it. Contrary to the opinion of Sheila, it is evident from here that Rabbi Eliezer was concerned about this possibility. The Gemara explains that Rabbi Eliezer has two requirements. The purchase of the red heifer must be from a Jew, and he is also concerned about the possibility that a person had engaged in bestiality. The Gemara analyzes Rabbi Eliezer's statement. Excuse me. The master said Jews were safeguarding the red heifer purchased from Dama ben Netina from the time it was born. The Gemara asks, and let us be concerned that perhaps Gentiles engaged in bestiality with the mother while she was pregnant. As Rava says, the offspring of an animal that gored and killed a Jew is forbidden as an offering, as it is considered as if she and her offspring together gored. And similarly, the offspring of an animal that was the object of bestiality is forbidden because it is considered as if a person engaged in bestiality with both her and her offspring. The Gemara answers, say that Rabbi Eliezer meant that Jews were safeguarding it from the time that it was conceived. The Gemara asks, and let us be concerned that perhaps they engaged in bestiality with the mother from the outset, that is, before conception, as we learned in a Mishnah, Teruma 30b, with regard to all animals that are disqualified for the altar, such as one that was the object of bestiality, sacrifice of their offering is permitted. And it is taught with regard to this case that Rabbi Eliezer prohibits their offspring from being sacrificed on the altar. If this is the case, Rabbi Eliezer should agree that there is a concern that a person might have engaged in bestiality with the heifer's mother at some point before its birth. The Gemara clarifies the difficulty. Granted, this works out well according to the opinion of Rava, as Rava says that Rav Nachman says the dispute between the rabbis and Rabbi Eliezer applies only when a person engaged in bestiality with the animal when they were consecrated and when they conceived. As Rabbi Eliezer holds that in that case the offspring are disqualified from being sacrificed as offerings, but if someone engaged in bestiality with the animals when they were non-sacred, everyone agrees that the offspring are permitted. Accordingly, it needs to be ascertained only that no one engaged in bestiality with the mother after she was consecrated. But according to the opinion of Rav Huna bar Hinana, who says that Rav Nachman says the dispute applies only when a person engaged in bestiality with the animals when they were non-sacred, but if someone engaged in bestiality with them when they were consecrated, everyone agrees that the offspring are forbidden. What is there to say? According to this opinion, Rabbi Eliezer should be concerned that a person might have engaged in bestiality with the animal prior to conception. The Gemara answers, say that Jews were safeguarding it as well, that is the mother of the red heifer, from the time that it was conceived. The Gemara challenges, and let us be concerned that perhaps someone engaged in bestiality with the mother of the heifer's mother. The Gemara responds, we are not concerned to such an extent. The Gemara discusses the revised version of Rabbi Eliezer's statement. The master said above, Jews were safeguarding the red heifer from the time that it was conceived. The Gemara asks, from where do we know that the mother would give birth to a red heifer, which would warrant safeguarding her? Rav Kahana says, they would pass a red cup before her while the male mounts her, an act that would cause the offspring to be red. The Gemara asks, if that is so, and the birth of a red heifer can be induced in such a simple manner, why is its price so expensive? The Gemara answers, since 2 hairs of a different color render the red heifer unfit, this method is unreliable. The Gemara asks another question, what is different about these cows? Why did the Jews resort to purchasing the red heifer from a Gentile when they could have induced its conception themselves? Rav Kahana said, Dama ben Netina owned a herd of cattle that were known to beget red heifers, and therefore he preferred to employ the aforementioned method with one of his cows. The Gemara relates, Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha were sitting on Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha's porch. One of them began and said that the Baraita teaches, and similarly Rabbi Eliezer would disqualify all offerings purchased from Gentiles due to the concern that a person had engaged in bestiality with the animals. The other one of them began and said, what did Rabbi Eliezer's colleagues respond to him? They quoted the verse, all flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto you. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto you. They shall come up with acceptance upon my altar. Isaiah 60, verse 7. This verse clearly indicates that offerings will be accepted from Gentiles. Rabbi Eliezer said to them, in the future all Gentiles will be calculating converts. That is, those who converted for personal gain as converts, they will not be suspected of engaging in bestiality. So the term calculating converts here, so it's gerim gerurim. Okay, I'm not going to go into that, but anyway, Rav Yosef said, what is the verse from which it is derived that they will convert? The verse states, for then will I turn to the peoples a pure language, and they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent. Zephaniah 3:9. This verse indicates that all nations will worship God. And Abaye said to him, but perhaps it is only from idol worship that they will withdraw, while they will still engage in forbidden relations, including bestiality. Rav Yosef said to him, that cannot be, as it is written at the conclusion of the verse, to serve Hashem with one consent, which indicates that the Gentiles will accept all of God's mitzvot. The Gemara comments, and this is actually a very particular incident here where you have a Tanna that, so this is a high level Tanna too. He's demonstrating, and you can't argue with the Tanna, that there will be converts after Moshiach, and that everybody will be converts. But anyway, the Gemara comments, Rav Papa teaches that discussion in this manner, but Rav Zavid teaches it in this manner. Both Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha said, and similarly Rabbi Eliezer would disqualify all offerings taken from Gentiles. And both said, what did Rabbi Eliezer's colleagues respond to him? They quoted the verse, all flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto you. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto you. They shall come up with acceptance upon my altar. Rabbi Eliezer said to them, all Gentiles will be calculating converts in the future. Rabbi Eliezer continues, and what is the verse from which it is derived that they will convert? It is from the verse, quote, for then will I turn to the peoples, a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord, to serve him with one consent. And so Rav Yosef objects to this proof, but perhaps it is only from idol worship that they will withdraw. Abaye said to him, that cannot be, as it is written, to serve him with one consent. The Gemara cites a series of verses which present difficulties with regard to the claim that animals purchased from Gentiles may not be used as offerings. The Gemara raised an objection from the following verse. And Moses said, you must also give into your hand offerings and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. Exodus 10:25. Moses demanded that Pharaoh provide the Jews with offerings despite the fact that he was a Gentile. The Gemara explains, the halakha prior to giving the Torah was different, as at that time it was acceptable to use animals taken from Gentiles as offerings. The Gemara raised another objection. Tashema, come and hear a proof from the verse. Quote, and Yitro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and offerings for God. So, Exodus 18:12. Yitro was not a Jew, and yet he brought offerings for God. I want to point out the Olah was the only offering that you find before the giving of the Torah, and that's what that's referring to there. The Gemara answers, the incident with Yitro was also prior to the giving of the Torah. The Gemara observes, granted, this works out well according to the one who says that the incident with Yitro was prior to the giving of the Torah, but according to the one who says that the incident involving Yitro was after the giving of the Torah, what is there to say? How could they accept offerings from him? Rather, it must be that Yitro purchased the animals from a Jew. The Gemara further states, Tashema, come and hear another objection from a verse. And Saul said, they have brought them from the Amalekites. They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the flock and of the herd to sacrifice unto the Lord your God. 1 Samuel 15:15. The verse states explicitly that the Israelites intended to sacrifice animals previously owned by Gentiles. The Gemara explains, what is the meaning of the phrase, the best? This is referring to the monetary value of the best livestock. The intention was not to sacrifice the animals themselves, but to sell them and use the proceeds of the sale to purchase other animals to sacrifice as offerings. The Gemara inquires, and what is different about the best animals? If the animals were sold for their value, why sell those animals in particular rather than several inferior quality animals? The Gemara explains that they did so in order that buyers would jump at the opportunity to buy superior quality livestock. In other words, it is easier to sell one superior quality animal than several inferior quality animals. Tashema, come and hear another objection from a verse. And Aruna said unto David, let my lord, the king, take and offer up what seems good unto him. Behold, the cattle for the burnt offering, and the threshing ornaments, or morigim, and the accoutrements of the cattle for the wood. 2 Samuel 24:22. Apparently, David was willing to accept oxen as offerings from a Gentile. Rav Nachman says, Aruna was a Gentile who resided in Eretz Yisrael and observed the 7 Noachide mitzvot, so a Ger Toshav. The 7 Noachide mitzvot include the prohibition against engaging in bestiality, and therefore Aruna was not suspected of this practice. Tangentially, the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the term morigim mentioned in this verse? Ula said it is a torbil bed. The Gemara asks, what is a torbil bed? It is a serrated board, so korkesa, used for threshing. Rabbi Yosef said, what is the verse from which the meaning of morigim is derived? It is derived from the verse, quote, behold, I have made you a new threshing board, so morag, having sharp teeth. You shall thresh the mountains and beat them small, and shall make the hills as chaff. Isaiah 41:15. The Gemara raised an objection to the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. After the Philistines returned the Ark of the Covenant to the Israelites upon a cart drawn by cattle, the verse states, and they sacrificed the cattle as burnt offering unto the Lord. 1 Samuel 6:14. Evidently, the Jews did not hesitate to sacrifice the Philistines' animals. The Gemara explains, there it was a provisional edict issued in extraordinary circumstances, and their actions are not representative of the general halacha. The Gemara adds, this also stands to reason, as if you do not say so, one can raise a further difficulty with the episode, is there a female burnt offering? Only males may be sacrificed as burnt offerings. Since the Jews sacrificed the cows as burnt offerings, it is clear that they were acting unconventionally due to the extenuating circumstances. Okay. The Gemara rejects this proof. And what is the difficulty? In other words, the additional problem with the incident that the animals were female, which is cited as proof that they were extenuating circumstances, is not in fact difficult at all. The Gemara elaborates, perhaps the cows were offered upon a private altar, and this is in accordance to the opinion of Rav Ada bar Ahava. As Rav Ada bar Ahava says, from where it's derived that a female burnt offering is fit to be sacrificed upon a private altar. As it is stated, in Shemuel took a milking lamb and sacrificed it for a burnt offering unto the Lord. 1 Samuel 7:9. The phrase milking lamb indicates that it was a female, and yet Samuel sacrificed it upon a private altar. The Gemara raises a difficulty, but the word v'ya alehu is masculine, which means that the lamb was male. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, although the word is read in the masculine, it is written in the female form, v'ya Allah, which teaches that even a female lamb may be sacrificed on a private altar. After concluding its discussion of the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, the Gemara cites another resolution of the contradiction between the Mishnah and the Baraita. Rabbi Yochanan says, there is a clear demarcation in the case of an animal with whom a man engaged in bestiality. If she is less than 3 years old, she becomes barren as a result of it But if she is already 3 years old, she does not become barren. Although Gentiles are generally suspected of engaging in bestiality, the Baraita rules that an animal that is less than 3 years old may be used as an offering because a Gentile will refrain from engaging in bestiality with an animal that may become barren as a result of his actions. So they raised all of those refutations from the aforementioned verses, which indicate that animals purchased from Gentiles may be brought as offerings. And he answered them by claiming that the animals being offered were less than 3 years old. The Gemara re-examines one of the objections. Tashma, come in here, as the verse states, and they sacrificed the cattle as burnt offering unto the Lord. 1 Samuel 6:14. Rabbi Yochanan explained that although in that incident the cattle had been owned by Philistines, they were less than 3 years old, and it was therefore presumed that the Philistines had not engaged in bestiality with them. The Gemara cites a refutation of Rabbi Yochanan's answer. Rav Huna, son of Rabbi Natan, objects to this. If so, then this is also true with regard to the verse. Quote, and they took 2 nursing cows and tied them to the cart and shut up their calves at home. 1 Samuel 6:10. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the verse is necessarily referring to cows that are less than 3 years old. And can a cow that is less than 3 years old give birth? But isn't it taught in a Baraita with regard to a cow or a donkey purchased from a Gentile when they were less than 3 years old? The first of their offspring born after the purchase is certainly reserved for the priest, who is entitled to the firstborn of a cow or donkey owned by a Jew. From this point forward, if they were older than 3 years at the time of the sale, it is uncertain whether or not the offspring is the firstborn. This indicates that an animal does not bear offspring within the first 3 years of its life. Since the cows in the verse had already given birth, they could not have been less than 3 years old. So as Rabbi Yochanan claimed. So the Gemara concludes, rather, it is clear, as we initially answered, Rabbi Yochanan's suggestion is rejected, and the actions in that verse were due to a provisional edict. The Gemara further analyzes the episode involving the cows sent by the Philistines. The verse states, and the cattle took the straight way on the way to Beit Shemesh. So, Vayisharna. They went along the highway, lowing as they went. 1 Samuel 6:12. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the word Vayisharna? Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Meir, it means that they recited a song, Shirah. The word for song is Shirah. And Rav Zutra Bar Tovia says, it means that they straightened or yishru their faces so that they were opposite the ark and recited a song. The Gemara asks, and what song did they recite? Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Meir, they recited the song that follows the verse, quote, they then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, Exodus 15:1, so the song of the sea. And Rabbi Yochanan himself says that it was, quote, and on that day shall you say, give thanks unto the Lord, proclaim his name, declare his doings among the peoples, make mention of his name is exalted. Isaiah 12:4. And Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says that it was an orphaned psalm, that is, a psalm whose author and event to which it makes reference is not specified. The psalm begins with, quote, a psalm, O sing unto the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have wrought salvation for him. Psalm 98, verse 1. Rabbi Eliezer says that it was the psalm beginning with, the Lord reigns, let the people tremble. Psalm 99, verse 1. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani says that it was the psalm beginning, quote, the Lord reigns, he is clothed in majesty. Psalm 93, 1. So Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha says they did not recite a verse found in the Bible, but rather the following song. Sing, sing, acacia, ascend in all your glory, overlaid with golden embroidery, exalted by the book of the palace, and magnificent with jewels. The song alludes to the Ark of the Covenant, which was made of acacia wood and covered with gold. The expression, book of the palace, is a reference to the Torah scroll that was placed in the Ark. Very beautiful. Rav Ashi teaches the statement of Rabbi Yitzchak in relation to this verse. And it came to pass, quote, and it came to pass when the ark set forward that Moses said, rise up, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. Numbers 10:35. The Gemara asks, what did the Jewish people recite at this juncture? Rabbi Yitzchak says that they recited, sing, sing, acacia, ascend in all your glory, overlaid with golden embroidery, exalted by the book of the palace, and magnificent with jewels. So apropos the mention of the term devir, let's see, devir. Okay, so exalted by the book, or devir. apropos the mention of the term Devir, the Gemara discusses its etymology. Rav said, on what basis do the Persians call a book Sifra by the term Devir? They derive it from here. Now the name Debir, or in other words, Davir, beforehand was Kiryath Sefer, so Judges 1:11. So that's the name of a town. Since the name Devir was changed to Kiryath Sefer, the Persians referred to a Sifra, that is a book, as Devir. The Gemara examines the etymology of another term coined by the Persians. So Rav Ashi said, on what basis do the Persians call a menstruating woman by the term Dashtana? It is from here, a verse in which Rachel claims to be a menstruating woman, for the manner of women is upon me. So Derech Nashim Li, Genesis 31:35. The word Dashtana is a shortened form of the phrase Derech Nashim. And that is the end of Daf 24.